What if the person you trusted the most was the one you should have feared? Two women, full of life and ambition, vanished under circumstances too chilling to ignore. One never made it home. The other's final moments were spent on the edge, before being sent to her death. In 2021, Ciera Vanishes was reported missing, but the details surrounding her disappearance didn't add up. Authorities believe she never left home that night, raising disturbing questions about what really happened. That same year in the UK, Fawziyah was on the verge of breaking free from a toxic marriage. But just days after taking that step, she was found dead at the foot of a well-known landmark, pushed to her death. Both cases left investigators searching for answers, but what they uncovered was even more horrifying than anyone expected. Ciera Vanishes, born Ciera Locklear, was a 31-year-old attorney whose sudden disappearance in February 2022 captured national attention. Originally from Cleveland, Georgia, Ciera was known for her vibrant personality and unwavering determination. Her mother, Kelly Locklear, described her as a bubbly and vibrant woman who projected a tough exterior to ensure she was taken seriously in her professional endeavors. Following in her mother's footsteps, Kelly was a paralegal. Ciera pursued a career in law. She graduated from Florida State University and quickly made a name for herself in the legal community. Her dedication and skill were recognized when she was voted one of the top 100 lawyers in the country to watch, a testament to her promising future in the field. Beyond her professional achievements, Ciera was deeply cherished by her family and friends. Her cousin, Shelby Campbell, remembered her as a very dynamic and lively woman with a towering personality. Ciera's warmth and energy left a lasting impression on those around her, making her sudden disappearance all the more distressing for her loved ones. In October 2020, Ciera's personal life took a significant turn when she met Xavier Breland on the dating platform Tinder. Their relationship progressed rapidly. Within 6 months, they were engaged and anticipating the birth of their first child. Despite the swift progression, concerns arose among Ciera's family regarding the dynamics of their relationship. Shelby noted that Ciera initially considered ending the relationship due to Xavier's aggressive and jealous behavior, but ultimately decided to stay, hoping to raise their child together. The couple eventually relocated to Carmel, Indiana, seeking a fresh start. Ciera secured a position at a law firm in Indiana, continuing her passion for the legal profession. However, reports suggest that challenges persisted in their marriage, with allegations of escalating abusive behavior from Xavier. Despite these hardships, Ciera remained a devoted mother to their infant son Jackson, and maintained close ties with her family, who continued to offer their support and express concern for her well-being. Ciera Vanishes' story is one of a dedicated professional, a loving mother, and a cherished family member whose sudden disappearance has left a void in the hearts of those who knew her. Her case underscores the importance of recognizing and addressing the complexities that can exist within personal relationships, even among those who appear to have it all. The last days of Ciera Vanishes' life remain shrouded in mystery, a puzzle made up of conflicting stories and missing pieces. But here's what we do know. On February 19th, 2022, Ciera, her husband Xavier Vanishes, their 5-month-old son, and their white Labradoodle left their home in Carmel, Indiana. They were heading to Georgia, a trip that was supposed to be about visiting family. Their first stop? Cleveland, Georgia, where they spent time with Ciera's father. There was nothing unusual, just a family visiting loved ones. The next day, February 20th, the Vanishes continued their trip, arriving in Johns Creek, Georgia, to stay at Xavier's mother's home. It was there, at this quiet suburban house, that Ciera was last seen by anyone other than her husband. Then came February 24, the night everything changed. At around 7:17 p.m., Ciera was last seen at the home of her mother-in-law in Johns Creek. That moment marks the last confirmed sighting of her alive. What happens next is entirely based on Xavier Vanishes' word. He claims that the very next day, on February 25th, the family drove back to Carmel, Indiana. But what he says next raises more questions than answers. According to Xavier, around 10 p.m. that night, Ciera left their Indiana home on foot, supposedly heading to a nearby store. She never returned, but there's something strange about his story. That night, temperatures were freezing, hovering in the mid to upper 20s Fahrenheit. And yet Xavier claimed Ciera had left the house in a black top and purple shorts, clothing completely inappropriate for the weather. From the very beginning, authorities questioned Xavier's story, and as they started to dig deeper, a chilling realization surfaced. There was no evidence that Ciera ever made it back to Indiana. No security footage, no eyewitnesses, nothing. Her last confirmed location was in Johns Creek, Georgia, on February 24th. So if Ciera never made it home, what really happened to her? And why was Xavier the only one claiming otherwise? For most missing persons cases, there's a crucial window of time, the first 24 to 48 hours, where answers can make the difference between life and death. But in Ciera Breland's case, from the moment her disappearance was reported, something felt off. It was February 26, 2022, when Xavier Breland called Carmel Police Department in Indiana to report his wife missing. He told officers that Ciera had left their home on Jackson's Grant Boulevard the night before, walking to a store. But right away there were red flags. For one, Xavier didn't call police immediately after she allegedly vanished. Why wait almost a full day? And two, he claimed she walked out into freezing temperatures, wearing nothing but a thin black top and purple shorts. Investigators began their search, combing through surveillance footage from traffic cameras and local businesses near their Indiana home. But there was no sign of Ciera, not a single image of her walking the streets that night. No one had seen her. The first to sound the alarm wasn't law enforcement, it was Ciera's family and friends. They knew something was wrong. Ciera wasn't the kind of person to just walk away, leaving behind her infant son, career and family. And most chilling of all, she had recently confided in those closest to her about her troubled marriage. Ciera's best friend, Heather D'Onofrio, was one of the first to publicly question Xavier's story. She described how Ciera had grown increasingly afraid of her husband. In fact, just weeks before she vanished, Ciera had reached out to her, asking for help divorcing Xavier. Ciera's parents were devastated but not entirely shocked. They had seen the signs of emotional and psychological abuse, and now they feared those red flags had turned into something far worse. Her father, David McGrath, wasted no time in speaking to the media. He pleaded for answers, his voice breaking as he described his daughter as a bright, determined woman who had everything to live for. She loved being a mother, he said, and she would never leave her son behind. But if Ciera had never returned to Indiana, then the entire premise of Xavier's story collapsed. The last verified sighting of her was in Johns Creek, Georgia, on February 24th, meaning whatever happened to her happened there. At first, both the Carmel Police Department in Indiana and the Johns Creek Police Department in Georgia launched their own investigations. The case quickly shifted from a missing persons case to a potential homicide investigation. The media caught wind of the inconsistencies in Xavier's story. News outlets across Indiana and Georgia began covering the case, putting pressure on law enforcement to get answers. Then came the biggest twist so far. Just hours after reporting his wife missing, Xavier Breland was arrested, but not for Ciera's disappearance. He had an outstanding warrant in Georgia for aggravated stalking against his ex-wife. With Xavier behind bars, detectives in both states turned up the heat. If Ciera was last seen in Georgia, why would Xavier insist she had disappeared in Indiana? Was this an attempt to mislead investigators? Authorities began searching Xavier's home, vehicles, and phone records. But what they found only deepened the mystery. There was no physical evidence that Ciera had ever returned to Indiana. No texts, no calls, no surveillance footage, nothing that proved she had left Georgia alive. As the investigation widened, a disturbing pattern began to emerge, one that suggested Ciera had been in danger long before she vanished. From the outset, the investigation into Ciera Breland's disappearance was fraught with complexities and unsettling discoveries. Her husband, Xavier Breland, quickly emerged as a central figure in the case. Initially, Xavier reported Ciera missing on February 26, 2022, in Carmel, Indiana, claiming she had left their home the previous night to walk to a nearby store and never return. However, discrepancies in his account raised immediate suspicions. Surveillance footage failed to show Ciera leaving the residence, and there was no evidence she had returned to Indiana after their trip to Georgia. In fact, the last confirmed sighting of Ciera was on February 24, 2022, at her mother-in-law's home in Johns Creek, Georgia. As investigators delved deeper, they uncovered troubling aspects of Xavier's past. He had an outstanding warrant in Georgia for aggravated stalking related to his ex-wife, leading to his arrest shortly after reporting Ciera missing. Additionally, a protective order had been issued against him by another woman in Fulton County, Georgia. The case garnered significant media attention, with news outlets across Indiana and Georgia covering the story extensively. Ciera's family and friends were vocal in their search efforts, utilizing social media platforms to raise awareness and appeal for information. Her father, David McGrath, described Ciera as a bright, determined woman who loved being a mother and would never willingly leave her son behind. As of now, Ciera Breland remains missing, and no charges have been filed in connection with her disappearance. Xavier Breland, while named a person of interest, has not been charged in relation to the case. He was, however, convicted on unrelated firearms charges and faced additional legal issues, including an intimidation charge. Ciera's disappearance has sparked national discussions about domestic violence and the importance of recognizing warning signs in relationships. Her case serves as a tragic reminder of the potential consequences of abusive relationships and has led to increased awareness and advocacy for victims of domestic violence. What do you think really happened to Ciera Breland? Was this a calculated crime, or is there more to the story than we know? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this case as chilling as we did, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a deep dive into the most haunting true crime cases. Your support helps us bring more cases like this to light. And let's dive into the tragic story of Fawziyah Javed, who thought she had escaped the nightmare of an abusive relationship, only for it to end in the most horrifying way imaginable. Imagine a young woman, full of promise and compassion, whose life was tragically cut short. This is the story of Fawziyah Javed, a 31-year-old British-Pakistani lawyer from Leeds, England. Born on September 4, 1989, Fawziyah was the only child of Mohammed and Yasmin Javed, second-generation British Pakistanis. From a young age, she exhibited a strong sense of justice and a desire to help others, aspiring to become a lawyer by the age of 8. Fawziyah's academic journey was marked by dedication and excellence. She attended Headingley Primary School in Leeds and Gateways Preparatory School in Harewood. Pursuing her passion for law, she enrolled at the University of Sheffield, where she earned her law degree. She further honed her legal skills by completing the Legal Practice Course, LPC, in York and Leeds. Her professional career included roles in various financial and legal firms before she became a paralegal at Lyons Davidson Solicitors. Beyond her professional achievements, Fawziyah was known for her unwavering commitment to charitable work, particularly within South Asian communities. Her generosity and selflessness left a lasting impact on those around her. Described by loved ones as a beautiful soul inside and out, Fawziyah had a magnetic personality that could light up any room. Her kindness knew no bounds, and she consistently went out of her way to support and uplift others. In August 2019, Fawziyah met Kashif Anwar, an optical assistant at Vision Express. Their relationship progressed, leading to their marriage on December 20th, 2020. Tragically, what seemed like the beginning of a new chapter turned into a harrowing ordeal, culminating in a devastating loss that shook her family, friends, and the broader community to their core. It was early September 2021 when Fawziyah Javed, 31, decided to take a short trip with her husband, Kashif Anwar, to Arthur's Seat, a well-known tourist spot in Edinburgh, Scotland. From the outside, it seemed like a simple getaway for a couple, but for Fawziyah, it was something far more harrowing. She had been enduring months of physical, emotional, and psychological abuse at the hands of Anwar. According to friends and family, she had been planning to leave him and had even sought legal advice on divorce. The day before her murder, she confided in her mother, Yasmin Javed, that she was afraid of what he might do. On September 2nd, 2021, Fawziyah and Anwar arrived in Edinburgh. Surveillance footage from their hotel captured tense moments between the couple, and later witnesses recalled seeing Fawziyah looking distressed. Despite the fear she carried, she still tried to keep up appearances. That evening, they went for a walk up Arthur's Seat, a scenic yet rugged hill overlooking the city. The last moments of Fawziyah's life were marked by horror. Witnesses later reported hearing her screams for help, followed by a chilling silence. At approximately 9 p.m., Anwar shoved Fawziyah off the steep hillside, sending her tumbling nearly 50 feet down the rocky terrain. As she lay critically injured, she used her final breaths to whisper the name of her killer to bystanders who rushed to her side. "Don't let my husband near me. He pushed me." Emergency responders arrived quickly, but it was too late. Fawziyah Javed was dead. A life filled with promise, stolen in an instant by the man who had vowed to love and protect her. The picturesque beauty of Arthur's Seat became the backdrop to an unimaginable crime, one that would soon unravel a deeper, more disturbing truth about the months leading up to Fawziyah's murder. Arthur's Seat, a popular hiking spot in Edinburgh, was meant to be a place of peace, a scenic escape from the city. But on the evening of September 2nd, 2021, that peace was shattered by a horrifying sight. It was just past 9 p.m. when emergency services received a frantic call. A woman had fallen from the steep hillside. Hikers nearby had heard screams moments before, but by the time they rushed over, it was too late. The woman lay motionless on the rocky slope below. When paramedics arrived, they found 31-year-old Fawziyah Javed critically injured. She had sustained severe trauma from the fall, and despite desperate efforts to save her, she was pronounced dead at the scene. Standing nearby was her husband, Kashif Anwar, claiming it had been a tragic accident. But something wasn't right. Fawziyah's family received the news late that night. The shock was immediate, but so was the suspicion. Her mother, Yasmin Javed, had been living with a constant fear, a fear she had voiced many times before. Fawziyah had confided in her about the abuse she was enduring, about her desperate attempts to leave her husband. Now, hearing that her daughter was dead, Yasmin didn't believe for a second that this was an accident. The media initially reported the story as a freak hiking tragedy, a misstep on the treacherous cliffs. But as the hours passed, new details began to emerge. Fawziyah wasn't just another hiker. She had been in the middle of escaping an abusive marriage. She had sought legal protection. She had told people she feared for her life, and yet somehow she was dead. Authorities at the scene immediately noted inconsistencies in Anwar's story. His demeanor, his conflicting statements, nothing sat right. Witnesses who had been on the trail recalled hearing a commotion just before the fall. Some even claimed they had heard an argument. As police dug deeper, a grim truth began to surface. Fawziyah had been trying to escape Kashif Anwar for months. She had filed reports. She had told friends. She had warned them. If anything happened to her, it wouldn't be an accident. Now investigators had to determine, was this a case of a tragic misstep or something far more sinister? From the very beginning, police suspected that Fawziyah Javed's fall from Arthur's Seat was not an accident. The inconsistencies in Kashif Anwar's account, combined with the chilling testimonies of witnesses, painted a far darker picture, one of premeditated murder. All eyes were on Kashif Anwar. He was the only person with Fawziyah that night. He was the only one who could explain how she ended up at the bottom of the cliff. But his explanations were vague, shifting with every question. Witnesses came forward with critical information. Hikers who had been near the scene reported hearing an argument just before the fall. One person claimed to have heard a woman's terrified scream, followed by a chilling moment of silence, before the sickening sound of a body hitting the rocky slope below. For investigators, the pieces were falling into place. This wasn't a case of a woman slipping and falling. This was something much worse. As investigators delved deeper into Fawziyah Javed's past, a devastating pattern of fear and desperation emerged. For months, she had been fighting to escape Kashif Anwar, a man whose grip on her life was suffocating. She had done everything in her power to protect herself, yet in the end, it wasn't enough. She had gone to the police, reporting the abuse, hoping the law would shield her from the growing danger. She had taken out a non-molestation order, a legal restraint meant to keep him away. But restraining orders are just paper when an abuser refuses to be bound by the law. Her pleas for help weren't whispered in secret. She had told everyone, her family, her friends, even colleagues at work. "If anything happens to me, it will be him," she had warned, a haunting premonition spoken with the weight of someone who knew, deep down, that she was running out of time. Yet despite all these warnings, despite every step she took to escape, she still found herself standing on Arthur's Seat, alone with the one person she feared most. In the hours following Fawziyah's fatal fall, Kashif Anwar was taken into custody. His version of events was filled with inconsistencies, and as detectives began piecing together the evidence, a chilling truth surfaced. This was not an accident. This was not a moment of blind rage. This was premeditated murder. Fawziyah had not willingly traveled to Edinburgh with Anwar. She had been forced. This trip, which should have been a time for her to celebrate newfound freedom, had instead become a trap. She had been in the process of leaving him for good, trying to reclaim her life from the cycle of abuse he had subjected her to. Anwar's history of violence only solidified suspicions. He had abused not just Fawziyah, but previous partners as well. The testimonies of those who had survived his wrath painted the picture of a man who exerted control through fear, a man who believed he was untouchable. And then there was the argument. Witnesses had reported hearing raised voices on the summit of Arthur's Seat that evening. A heated exchange, a final confrontation. The moment when Fawziyah likely realized she wasn't going to make it out alive. But it was her own words that sealed his fate. The police had everything they needed. Her reports, her warnings, her desperate attempts to escape. She had told the world who would kill her, and in the end, she had been right. By 2023, Kashif Anwar was standing trial for Fawziyah's murder. The evidence against him was overwhelming. The prosecution painted a harrowing picture of abuse, control, and the brutal final moments of Fawziyah's life. Witnesses recounted what they had heard on the mountain that night. Experts analyzed her attempts to protect herself, showing just how methodically she had tried to break free from Anwar's grasp. The jury did not take long to reach their verdict. In April 2023, Kashif Anwar was found guilty of murder. His sentence, life in prison, with a minimum term of 20 years before the parole could even be considered. For Fawziyah's family, the verdict was justice, but it was also hollow. No amount of prison time could bring her back. No sentence could erase the pain of losing her. They had lost a daughter, a sister, a friend. The world had lost a kind, intelligent woman who had spent her final months fighting to survive. Fawziyah's murder sent shockwaves across the UK. It became a painful symbol of the failures in protecting domestic abuse victims, a case that proved, once again, that even when victims speak up, they are not always saved in time. Her story ignited national conversations. Advocates pushed for stricter enforcement of protective orders. Activists demanded better intervention strategies to ensure victims weren't just heard, but actually protected. Campaigns called for stronger laws against domestic violence, because Fawziyah's death wasn't just a tragedy, it was preventable. Her mother, Yasmin Javed, refused to let her daughter's story fade into silence. She became an outspoken advocate, using her grief as fuel to fight for change, to ensure that other women wouldn't suffer the same fate. 2 women, 2 tragic endings. Both Ciera Vanishes and Fawziyah Javed saw the danger coming. They knew the men in their lives were capable of violence. They tried to escape. They tried to protect themselves. And yet both were taken in acts of domestic violence. Crimes that didn't happen in an instant, but were building for months, even years. These cases expose a chilling reality. When abusers are not stopped, the violence doesn't just continue, it escalates. And too often, it ends in murder. These aren't isolated tragedies, they are patterns. Patterns we see over and over again. So now we turn the question to you. What do you think should have been done differently? Have you heard of similar cases? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you found these stories important, don't forget to subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. And let's keep this conversation going.